All right, so anyone traveling internationally these days, well, especially if the U.S. is on your itinerary, things are changing fast, and it can be hard to keep up.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot too.
We're going to jump right into it for today's deep dive. We're going to be looking at Germany's new travel guidance for anyone headed to the U.S.
Yeah, and we've got some pretty interesting stuff to unpack.
Oh,
Hear from some recent news reports and a couple of official statements.
we'll be pulling that right from pasted text as always. And really what we want to figure out is what these updates, spurred by some recent detentions at the border, what they really mean for you listening, if you're planning a trip.
Yeah, so right off the bat, I think one of the most significant things here is this isn't your typical travel advisory. Germany is explicitly stating that having a U.S. visa or even an SDE,
Right?
that's the electronic system for travel authorization.
For visa-exempt travel.
Exactly, for visa-exempt travel. So even having those things doesn't actually guarantee that you're going to get into the U.S. once you arrive. So you're saying you can do everything right, jump through all the hoops, and Germany is saying, hey, there's still a chance you might hit a wall at the very end. What happened? What caused them to change their guidance like this?
Well, it seems like the main catalyst here was a series of detentions of German citizens at U.S. borders just recently. And, our sources specifically mentioned 3 separate cases.
Okay.
2 of those individuals ended up having to go back to Germany. But the third case, this was a little more concerning.
Okay.
It involves a German national who actually had a U.S. green card.
Oh, wow.
And this person was detained at Boston Airport. And as far as we know, they're still in custody.
A green card holder detained.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely raising some eyebrows.
Yeah, I mean, that really highlights how serious this is. Do we know why these detentions are happening?
So unfortunately, the German authorities haven't really given us specific details on those cases. But
Okay.
looking at the pasted text, it does seem like there's this bigger picture. The U.S. has been implementing stricter immigration policies overall.
Right. I mean, you think back to President Trump's executive orders, and there was a big push for, tighter border control, more thorough visa screenings, really just increased enforcement across the board.
Exactly. And it seems like Germany is trying to figure out, okay, are these detentions just isolated incidents? Or is this a sign that these tougher U.S. measures are impacting German citizens, even if they have all the right paperwork?
Even when they have, seemingly valid travel permissions.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this updated guidance is Germany's way of being proactive, making sure their citizens understand that things are changing and they need to be aware of the potential risks.
Okay, so bottom line for anyone listening who is planning a trip to the U.S., what's the message? What should they be prepared for?
I think the key takeaway here is vigilance having the necessary travel documents is obviously still crucial.
Of course.
But this situation really highlights that at the end of the day, it's the U.S. border authorities who have the final say on who gets in. So be prepared for the possibility of extra scrutiny. Understand that just because you have authorization beforehand doesn't automatically mean you're going to be admitted.
It definitely changes how you think about planning a trip. It's not as simple as it used to be.
Right.
So just to bring it all together, the big point here is that a visa or an ESTA is just the first step. It's not the be-all, end-all. And staying informed about these shifting international travel policies is more important than ever.
Yeah, and it really makes you wonder, what does this mean for international travel in general?
Yeah.
Are we entering a time where the perceived security of travel documents is becoming less certain in this increasingly complex world?
It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.